Well, hello everybody, it's Fiona Hooper and it's time for another instalment of the Poetry of Painting. So welcome to everybody. Please don't be shy. Let me know in the comments who you are, where you're from, and feel free to ask questions or make some comments. Always lovely to have some interaction. So I'm excited to tell you, very excited in fact, to tell you that this week I'm going to be joined by the talented Australian poet Skylar J Wynter. As usual, we've both written a poem about one of my paintings, and this week it's the turn of Ruffled Waters, which you can see behind me here. So welcome to my guest for this week. Skylar, bring you in. And thank you very much for joining me on the Poetry of Painting.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Excellent. Well, I know that you're a very accomplished and successful published poet. And would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into poetry?
Sure. So I guess first thing is I'm actually the alter ego of someone else. So I created her because when the opportunity came up to start performing poetry, that was I have suffered a trauma and suffer from PTSD, and so like presenting as myself was not an option. I was a blithering mess kind of thing. So Skylar kind of stepped in and saved the day and gave me like a character to perform through. So that's worked really well. And then as that journey has unfolded, and I was picked up by a publisher to publish my first book of poetry, mixed poetry and prose, which this is it here. It's called Pieces of Humanity. So that actually became, unwittingly a bit of a marketing tool as well, and my butterfly and everything has kind of become my brand. So that's been a really interesting journey as well, because that was not my initial that's not where I was heading when I first started performing poetry at the open mic. That began just by doing a couple of poems for a friend who was having a live book launch at the time, and then straight after that event an event organizer approached me and said, "Oh, would you come and be a feature poet at my next event?" So it kind of just snowballed from there, and it was a very organic journey. It's just one thing's happened after another's happened after another. So nothing sort of felt forced or, being planned necessarily strategically. It's just sort of all unfolded. So, and here I am. So my book went to number one on Amazon the month after it was launched. So so everything's kind of just snowballed from there.
Brilliant. And I believe there's something else about your book at the moment as well.
Yeah, so oh gosh, I'm hopeless with self-promoting, but so my book has ended up in the gift bags, being gifted to Oscar nominees this weekend in a honouring gifting situation. So so my book will be in all the goodie bags being handed out to all the Oscar nominees this weekend. So that's very exciting. So if you follow, I'll post some links in the chat later on, but if you follow me, you'll start seeing I'm learning how to use Twitter and getting all very up with it. So you'll start seeing posts coming through about all of that information and how to find me and everything like that.
Excellent. Brilliant. Well, I'm sure people will be really keen to get on there and have a look at your book and hopefully buy your book as well. So
that'd be great. Yep, definitely buy it.
Am I right in thinking there's another book in the pipeline too?
There is. So this is very exciting. We're hoping for an October launch, which will be exactly a year after Pieces of Humanity. And this book will be so that my artist who did design the cover for Pieces of Humanity, she is now doing artwork for each of the poems. So the plan is that it will be a proper hardcover coffee table book. And and every poem will have some beautiful. She does lots of forms of art and uses lots of different mediums, but all of these pictures have basically been hand drawn and coloured in with various types of pens and coloured pencils and all that kind of thing, and then she scans them and she goes through all this process and just creates the most beautiful artwork. So I'm very excited about that. So I finished all the writing, she's just finishing all the artwork off now, and then soon we'll be able to start posting some little teasers everywhere about that. So, yeah,
it's really exciting. It's because I'm thinking about doing something but the other way around with my paintings and my poems and my guest poets poetry as well. So yeah, just the other way around. But I think that for me is exciting, but there's a little bit of a way to go yet. I've got a few more poems to write and other people to get to write poems for me as well. So well,
I'm sure it won't take long because it's a great project. Lots of people, I think lots of poets and creators love being involved with that kind of thing. So I'm sure it won't be long before we see your book out there, which will be very exciting.
Hopefully. And you also, I believe, are a bit of an artist yourself as well, with jewellery and garden sculptures.
Yes, I do like to dabble. I think it would be the same for everyone. I don't think you can just be like, when I get focused on a project like my next book, it was just non-stop writing for months. But I'm now winding down. Well, I'm not really winding down because I have a lot of other projects that are coming to fruition in the next couple of months. But after the end of June, the plan is to just take a complete break from writing, and then I'll sort of move into making some more jewellery and creating some more sculptures and just let my brain kind of do its thing so I can get back to writing. So
excellent. Sounds really exciting. So but we'll hear a bit more about those things maybe in a minute, but I'm sure everybody's waiting to hear about the poems. Hopefully they are anyway. Yes. This week it's about my oil painting, which is entitled Ruffled Waters, which is on here, and I'll share that on the screen as well so that people can see that in a bit more detail. And this is another painting which was inspired by some of my travels to such amazing remote places that I love, where peace and quiet are just absolutely sublime. And in this location, I would have just loved to have had a canoe and to be able to paddle almost silently around the shoreline. Excuse me, just need a sip of water here. Sorry about that. And maybe in a canoe, because you can just move so quietly. Maybe I would have been able to see some wild animals on the banks, and I just, for me, that's just a really good way to unwind. And that's what I try to do in my landscape paintings, to capture some of that peace and tranquility of the place, and to help people to de-stress from the challenges of daily life, especially with COVID about, it's, I think most people are feeling somewhat stressed these days, with restrictions and worries about, going out and probably knowing people who've had it and suffered and sadly maybe lost as well. So that's what I try to do with my artwork. And so your poem's based on my painting, and you had no knowledge of my reasons for painting it. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your poem and finding out what the painting said to you. So would you like to read that for us now?
I would be very happy to read it for you. So this poem, it was funny because, with a painting, I find that the more I look at it, the more layered it becomes and the more I see in it and everything else. So this poem has kind of gone from really epically long to short and whatever. But when I edited it through the other night, it's the short version. So it's called Ruffled Waters. Out beyond the water's edge, the glassy surface, yesterday impervious to even a ripple, begins to ruffle. A reflection of all that's unsettled beneath my skin. Things I contain, keep in, anchoring them offshore to prevent onshore pandemonium. Exhaling, the zephyr of my breath joins with the wind until I breathe in, stealing back what I gave, just as the waves draw back into nature's container the grit that will form another layer of foundations impervious to the activity on the surface. The waters lapping at the water's edge are nothing that the shoreline cannot manage. The breeze triggering the rippling is not decimating but cleansing. The colours of reeds and mosses muted are daily transmuted with changing skies. This is where truth lies, I realise. Here, there, somewhere in between the glare of full sun on a summer's day and a landscape filtered grey when dark clouds ballet over mountain tops, a landscape never lies. It may change, may appear unfamiliar, different, but its truth on any given day is reflected only of the light that shines on it. That's my little poem.
That is beautiful. I love that. It's actually really quite deep and introspective as well, isn't it? Focusing on your feelings and moods, as well as about the place itself, which is, which is, it's got so much in there, which is amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. It's like your painting, it's very layered.
I'd be really interested to read the long version sometime if I'm allowed to. But
yes, I'll send it through one of these days.
And it was interesting as well that some of the words that you've used were ones that I'd used in mine as well, which is it's nowhere near as deep as yours. It's I'm a beginner still, so that's fine. So anyway, I'll read mine now, which sounds a bit sort of lightweight compared with yours, but here we go. So, called Ruffled Waters, of course. So high in the distant foothills, where the air is crystal clear, fed by the mountain springs, this remote and peaceful mere. Nestled below the craggy peaks, reflecting their misty violet hue, the snow-capped rocky sentinels, sharp against the vibrant blue. A zephyr gently stirs the reeds and whispers softly in the trees, caressing the pines and the bushes, reflections broken by the breeze. Ripples like miniature breakers, tipped with delicate foamy white, breaking quietly on the shore, sparkling in the crystalline light. These ruffled waters, clean and clear, summer refuge for bird and beast, the balmy warmth now tempered by the tendrils of winter from the east. So that's my version. So,
well, clicks as we do in the poetry community. That was beautiful.
Oh, yeah, I should have done that for you then.
Oh no, that's all right.
Thank you. But I mean, they're really quite different, but they've got quite a lot in common as well, which I suppose you can expect as it's looking at the same painting. But because people see so many different things in a painting, one person to another, it's interesting how yours is, deeper, introspective, focusing quite a lot on what's underneath the surface as well. Whereas mine tends to be more above the surface.
Yeah, so. Definitely. And that is really the theme. It's definitely the theme of Pieces of Humanity, and it's still an ongoing theme, but in a lighter tone in my second book. So yes, I tend to write about what's unseen and what we contain, and that's what I loved about the painting, is that it did present, a lake or a river is a container for something, and it has its layers, and then there's the landscape on top of that, and I just love that on any given day you can go anywhere in nature, and it's not that it's necessarily changed, although everything's changing, but quite often it's just the perspective that you're looking at it through, or the lens or the filtered light or whatever that makes it appear something that it may be or it may not be. So I love that correlation between nature and it's a metaphor for ourselves, really. So that's kind of where I come out with a lot of my poetry. So
and then you can add into that, from the artist's perspective, the changing weather, the light, the conditions, and I'm affected by the smells and sounds when I'm in a place as well, and that I try to get all of that into a painting, but I haven't got the ability to put sound and smell into my paintings yet, which is probably a good thing at times, but coming at it from different angles as well, it's no wonder that people see different things and have different emotions about a landscape, a painting, a poem. So Yeah. So
Definitely very personal. But I do think I do beg to differ with you. I feel like, you know, there's a lot of movement in that painting. Like I actually, and I'm quite a, you know, I kind of feel everything anyway. That's sort of how I am. But, you know, that your painting, when you sent it through to me, because I do worry when people present me with prompts that I'm not going to be able to write to a prompt.
yeah.
But yes, straight away I felt, you know, I could feel the moving water and the, you know, and I just, yeah, I think there is a lot of movement in there, and you know, and then I can hear the sound of water and everything. So all my senses do engage with your work. So yeah, I think you've done beautiful. You've done beautiful work, and it certainly inspired me on lots of levels.
Excellent, thank you. So have you written for a painting before, or is this a new adventure for you?
This is a first for me, and I'm actually, in saying that, I'm co-hosting a poetry open mic event in the next few days, and the theme to that is your first, and I haven't written the poem yet, so I'm thinking, oh, maybe I've got to write a poem about writing a poem about a painting or something. So because that's the first, but yeah. So yes, it is the first time. I've done written prompts before, and I usually start those off with a stream of thought because I am a little bit hopeless at writing to a prompt, but this one just spoke to me straight away. The visual, I do love visual, so it was very easy. Yeah.
Well, I hope it's not going to be the last one that you do, because hopefully you're going to come back and see us anyway. So
I would love to. Any opportunity to work with your work would be an absolute boon to me. So please send me more.
Excellent. Yeah. So when you go into writing a poem, as you say, you first of all start with a stream of thought, and does that sort of stay there, or do you edit that, or is that just the starting point and then you write the poem from that separately?
So the stream of thought is what I use if I'm given a writing prompt, generally, because so with my poetry, generally a poem will just suddenly, I say, it drops in on me. It sounds a bit arty farty, but that's not what I mean. But you know, usually I can just be doing something. I'm usually doing something else. I'm in the garden, or I'm cooking dinner, or something's going on, and then boom, this poem comes to me, and I have to either run off and write it down straight away. And generally, whatever comes out tends to be pretty close to the finished poem.
Okay.
It's not often that I have to do masses of edits or whatever. It does write itself. And yeah, the edits are usually just to do with placing a word differently or something like that to get a better flow. Because I do it as spoken word, it's important that I think there's a bit of a rhythm and a flow, even if there's not necessarily always rhyme. So when I first started writing, it was all very much, you know, structured and rhymey and all the rest of it. And the more you sort of surround yourself with spoken word, especially, and you get to hear that sometimes quite often rhyme doesn't have to carry the poem. It can be the flow and the rhythm and the beat of it and all the rest of it. So my style's definitely morphed and changed. But yes, poems generally just drop in, and that's that kind of thing. They come to me and I write them down, and it's like, oh, that one's done.
Yeah. And well, that's rather like painting as well. You know, my style has changed over the years, and it's changing still. You know, I'm doing some different work now from what I was doing a year or two ago. So, but do you consciously try and write in a different style at all, or does it just develop organically?
Yeah, well, for me, it has developed organically. Occasionally, I will hear something, and I'll think, oh, I'd like to give that a go, but that's not my voice. So if I try to do something, it generally is a big fail.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't like to call them fails, because I think if you've given something a go, that's a win in itself. So yes, I think the fact that I attend so many events, like I'm usually attending, you know, I can attend sort of 40 events in a month, sort of thing. So I'm hearing lots and lots and lots of spoken word, and I think that the way that some people present or whatever, it can't help but rub off on you, and you find yourself doing things without trying, which I think is the best way.
Yeah. So it needs to be you can take bits from people, but it needs to fit in with your own personality and
Yeah.
your own method and style, really, doesn't it? It's paintings. You know, if I go to an exhibition and I'll see something and I think, wow, I love that, or I love that, you know, maybe just the combination of colours, or you know, and it's not to copy that, but it may trigger an idea in my head based on something I've seen. But it, you know, I don't want to copy what someone else has done, but it can still inform, you know, artist's work can inform another artist's work without having to copy it. And, you know, as you say, if you try and do it in somebody else's style, it's not you, it's not authentic, it's not your work. So,
you know, and
you
I
know,
think people see that.
And I think it really does show, because when you're working in your own style, you put so much more into it. I think, you know, it has more of you in it, which is, I think, the same with poetry, with art, sculpture. You know, it's a part of that artist, whether they're a poet or a painter or whatever. You know, it's, people are actually getting a bit of that person, as opposed to just some words or some paint on a canvas. You know, if it was just paint on a canvas, we could just throw some paint there and say, well, there you go, that's painting. But that's not. You know, the same with you. You could get a dictionary, pull a few pages out and say, well, there's some words. But it's something that's coming from inside, isn't it? And you know, that's what makes each of our work, you know, unique and our own style. So yeah, that was brilliant.
Sure.
So tell us some more about your film. Are you able to tell us some about your film, or is that?
Yes. Well, yes. So that's another link I can put in the chat in a little bit. So I'm working in collaboration with a spoken word artist from the US of A. Her name's Special K. And she writes the most epic spoken word. It's just unbelievable. And so we've been talking for a while. We're very close. She calls me her sister, and I'm saying, call her back. Oh, I don't have a sister. And yes, a lot of our poetry and we find that our lives are very sort of similar, and so we write about very similar things but in very different ways. And so at the end of last year, I sort of said, I was a bit cheeky, I didn't think she'd want to do it, but I said, you know, I'd love to do a collaboration. And at the time, another poet friend was creating a film, and so when that came out, I was like, I think we can do this. I think this would be really great to have an event where everything's pre-filmed and then created into a film on a theme. So we came up with a theme, which is love in all places, and that's morphed a little bit from what it was, but it's still the same theme. And so I've got a deadline tomorrow to get all the footage to our film editor. So I've been very under the pump with that plus the Oscars. So that will be airing in May. So I'll be able to pop a link in, and we're just selling tickets to cover our costs and everything. And yes, very excited about that. And then I've got another one coming up in June, middle of June, for Midsummer, and that's with a Scottish performer, singer-songwriter, Jamie McCormick. And so that's really exciting as well. But the pressure's kind of off me for that, because all I have to do is, I've written the poems, and all I have to do is video myself doing them. It's his show, so he's got to wear the hard work. So, but it'll be great. Yeah.
I was just thinking, and I have to book you in, you know, to make sure I can get you back in another slot, you know, book you in a few months ahead at this rate. Gosh.
I know, it's ridiculous. I never thought I'd hear anyone say that, but yes, it's getting that way.
Excellent. Well, good for you. I mean, it's brilliant. I love hearing success stories like yours. It's just so good, you know, and that things are just really working out for you. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So, well, I hope you'll still, you know, come on my show as well.
I will, for sure. Definitely. Right? Love it.
So, and then hopefully we can talk some more about all the things that you've been doing and how they've gone as well. And by then, you know, your new book will be a bit closer to being ready and everything as well. So that'd be great. So
Yes,
Well,
I might be able to share some artwork of my own. Not my artwork, but my artist's artwork. Yeah, I'm hoping to have some to kind of give people little tasters and teasers very soon.
absolutely, that'd be lovely. Yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to feature your poems in my book as well when that gets to that stage. Not quite there yet, but it will be. It will.
Yeah,
So,
I'd love that. Thank you.
Well, ever so many thanks for joining me today, Skylar. And to say,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I really hope that you will come back very soon to join me for another session on poetry and painting. And don't forget to put your links for your website, social media, book and everything in the comments afterwards so that people know how they can get hold of you. So next
do that.
week, good. Next week, I have yet another fabulous poet artist joining me for more talk about poetry and painting. So I hope that you'll all be able to join me again for that. Maybe not live for you, Skylar, as it's the middle of the night for you. So I quite appreciate that. But same time, same place. And a quick reminder, if anyone wants to see new paintings before they're released to social media and get invitations to events, you can sign up to my VIP mailing list on my website to get my newsletter. So that's at www.fionahooper.com, or feel free to message me with your email address and I can sign you up. So stay safe, everybody. Have a good week. See you next Wednesday for another Poetry of Painting session. Bye from us, both of us, Skylar and myself. Thanks ever so much. Take care now. Thanks, Skylar.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.